How did England become England? It's a question we don't often ask. We just accept it exists. But before there was a Great Britain or a United Kingdom, England itself had to be created, and that story, starting way back in 927 AD, is more dramatic than you might think. So, who lived here before the English, and how did this land transform into the nation we know today? Our story begins with the Roman Empire packing its bags and leaving Britain. This departure left a power vacuum, and soon waves of Anglo-Saxon Germanic tribes began migrating into the region. The native Britons who remained were under constant attack from the Picts and Scots to the north. In a desperate move, they invited some of these Anglo-Saxon warriors to help defend their lands. The plan worked a little too well. The Anglo-Saxons drove out the invaders, but then they turned around and took over themselves. By the 7th century, they had carved up the land into 7 distinct kingdoms: Essex, Kent, Sussex, Mercia, East Anglia, Northumbria, and Wessex, known collectively as the Heptarchy. But their dominance wouldn't last. A new, fiercer enemy was on the horizon. In the year 793, the Anglo-Saxon world was shattered. Vikings raided the sacred Lindisfarne monastery with a brutality no one was prepared for. This was just the beginning. The Viking conquest was terrifyingly swift. By 870, East Anglia had fallen. By 874, Mercia was lost. A year later, Northumbria was under Viking control. The Anglo-Saxon kingdoms were collapsing one by one until only Wessex remained. This is where a legend is born: Alfred the Great. When his brother, the King of Wessex, died, Alfred was left to defend the last free Anglo-Saxon kingdom. His first move was to pay the Vikings off, buying precious time. But he wasn't just stalling, he was preparing. When the time was right, Alfred led his army against the Vikings at the Battle of Edington and won a spectacular victory. He then cleverly gained control of the neighboring kingdom of Mercia, not by conquering it, but by placing a loyal nobleman in charge who answered directly to him. For the first time, 2 of the great Anglo-Saxon kingdoms were united under one leader. After Alfred, his son Edward the Elder, and his formidable daughter, Æthelflæd, the Lady of the Mercians, took up the cause. This power duo worked together to push back against the Viking-controlled territories known as the Danelaw. In 917, their coordinated campaigns saw huge success. The Æthelflæd expanded her lands north, while Edward absorbed all of East Anglia. Æthelflæd was relentless, pushing all the way to York, where the locals simply surrendered, pledging loyalty to her without a fight. Tragically, she died soon after. When her daughter was quickly ousted, Edward seized the opportunity, bringing all of Mercia under his direct control. By the time Edward died in 924, the vision of a unified England was finally taking shape. The final piece of the puzzle was put in place by Edward's son Æthelstan. He arranged for his sister to marry the Viking ruler of Northumbria. When this ruler died, Æthelstan marched north and brought the kingdom under his crown. This moment, in the year 927 AD, is what most historians consider the creation of the Kingdom of England. Æthelstan now styled himself King of the English. But the story wasn't over. In 937, Æthelstan tried to extend his authority into Scotland. The Scots, however, formed a powerful alliance with the Vikings of Dublin and the Kingdom of Strathclyde. The resulting clash was the Battle of Brunanburh. It was a bloody, brutal fight, but Æthelstan's forces crushed the alliance. This victory didn't add Scotland to England, but it did something more important. It forged a true sense of English national identity. For the first time, they weren't just people from Wessex or Mercia fighting together. They were the English, united under one king. Of course, the Vikings weren't done. After Æthelstan's death, the Viking king of Dublin, Olaf, reconquered York and a large chunk of former Northumbria and Mercia. It was a huge setback. But when Olaf died, Æthelstan's successor, Edmund, saw his chance. By 944, he had pushed the Vikings out of Northumbria and reunited England once more. But then, just 2 years later, Edmund was murdered. This kicked off another period of chaos. A Viking named Eric Bloodaxe attacked and seized Northumbria again. For nearly a decade, the territory was fought over until King Edred, Edmund's brother, finally reclaimed it for good. After a messy succession, the crown eventually landed on the head of a king who would change everything. Edgar the Peaceful. Edgar's reign, lasting nearly 2 decades, was exactly what the young, battered kingdom needed. He brought peace, unity, and order. Crucially, he made the smart decision to keep many of the Danish laws and systems in the old Danelaw. Instead of erasing their culture, he accommodated it, which helped create genuine unity rather than forced submission. It was under Edgar that the foundations of the English kingdom were finally secured. So, the creation of England was a long, messy, and incredibly fragile process. It was a story of migration, conquest, fierce resistance, and brilliant leadership. From the heptarchy of the Anglo-Saxons to the terror of the Viking invasions, it took figures like Alfred the Great and Æthelstan to piece together a unified kingdom. It was forged in the fires of battles like Brunanburh and finally solidified through the peaceful and pragmatic rule of King Ger. It's a remarkable story of how a nation was born against all odds. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the past as fascinating as I did, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into history. See you next time.